All the school board was there. Mr.
Will.
Will. I'll just trying to find out. You know, Tim, what's his name? Yeah. I'm trying to find that pictures. Once you have these pictures developed, I think it said it was 250 of them. They got it, one do it down, take that.
And I go through so many at one time.
There's Kathy Davis. There's your picture.
When was this?
September the 6th, at the Abraham, we call your office begging for money. We call your office begging for money, but I would get a table, but we have another event, that you guys got involved in. We have 150 people, you know what I mean, so. A good time. A van.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got no prayer on.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. As always, thank you guys for being here for Thursday morning breakfast. You guys know, but Brother Christian doesn't know that we do this every Thursday morning, where we try to be the bridge between those that are doing the work and with those that need the work to be done in their lives. This is Thursday morning breakfast is done by my organization called the Grow for Care Alliance. GROW is an acronym that stands for Generating Real Opportunities to Win. The number 4 in the middle, CARE, Community Action Results Empowerment. So when you put them together, you have generating real opportunities to win for community, for action, for results, for empowerment. And you know, it's probably one of the reasons why you're running. Politically speaking, especially on a local level, our communities, brown communities, poor white communities aren't as organized as we need to be. We're not as mobilized as we need to be. So when it comes to politics, we lose. And we lose because we're not paying attention. Brother Will and I were having a conversation on our way up here that those who have agendas that don't always align with things that are going to make our lives better, they win because they have an agenda, because they mobilize, because they organize. They're relentless and they never stop. So if we don't put ourselves in a position by which we are mobilized, organized, have an agenda, then we're always going to lose. So Thursday morning breakfast is about us bringing private and public sector speakers out, again, who are already doing the good. They can be city employees, they can have a nonprofit, it can be somebody who's over a church program, whatever. If a person, an entity is doing good for the community, we want to let the community know who they are, make that connection, and help them grow their message and their mission. And we simply can't move forward as a community if we don't have, especially on a local level, political organization. And if we're organized on a local level when it comes to politics, then when it comes to someone running for a higher level or higher office, it makes it that much easier for us to support that person because we're already organized. And that's the whole point that we're trying to do here with Thursday Morning Breakfast. Let people know what's what, connect them with the what's what, and then move forward with making that what's what bigger, better, and stronger. Of course, there's a race for the 18th Congressional District. There used to be, I think at the height, 28 candidates. I think we've whittled that down to maybe about 8 or 9, which is still a lot. And this morning we're going to talk to, I think, in my opinion, at least the number 1 or 2 contender. It goes back and forth depending on the source of the information. But Brother Christian has been, he's been at the top for a minute. I've done my due diligence. I like what he brings to the table. But when it comes to any politician, of course, there are always questions. And you can always let the community know more about you while you're running, what you're doing, all that good stuff. So as I said earlier, it's casual. Just you talking to the people, something you've done before. So on that note, we're going to bring up Mr. Christian Menifee, and he's going to let us know why we need to vote for him moving forward.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Christian Menifee, and I'm running for Congress because it was a thoughtful, a compassionate, a helpful government that gave me my first shot at the American dream. When I was growing up, there were many nights I would not have eaten were it not for the WIC program. Many days I would have been in school on an empty stomach were it not for free lunch in our public schools. My parents would have never purchased their first home were it not for VA down payment assistance that allowed them when I was in high school to put $500 down to get their first home. I'd never went to college without a Pell Grant, never went to law school without the post 9/11 GI Bill, and my brother almost certainly would have died from cancer were it not for my parents' military health benefits that fully funded his bone marrow transplant, and he's been in remission for more than 20 years. At every single step, it was a thoughtful, helpful, compassionate government, and that's how you go from a family like mine, which has sent more people to prison than to college, to me being the youngest person and the first African American elected Harris County attorney. So when I look at Washington, D.C. right now, and then I look into the eyes of my two boys, Gabriel and Malcolm, their peers, and I think about what is going to be passed on to the next generation, it made me want to stand up and fight. We have a president who is laying off hundreds of thousands of federal workers, a president who is cutting Medicaid despite the fact that we have the highest number of uninsureds of any state right here in the state of Texas, a president who is cutting SNAP benefits despite the fact that the 18th has the largest number of SNAP beneficiaries of any congressional district in all of the state of Texas. We have a president who's targeting federal judges, who's deporting U.S. citizens, who is stepping on the outer bounds of the rule of law and is making it so that our democracy, the opportunities that I had, the programs that I benefited from, won't be available to the next generation. I want every single kid in our communities, regardless of where they're from, what their zip code is, what they look like, who they love. I want every single kid in our community to have the same shot at the American dream that I had. But I see a president and I see a Congress right now that is not working towards that same goal. So I decided to do something about it. I've been the county attorney for the past 4 years, and anybody who's been paying attention to our work will tell you that we've been focused on two things. One is making sure that the communities who have typically been told that they don't have a voice, fighting for those communities. And the second thing is standing up to bullies that have targeted our community. I've been on the front lines of just about every single major environmental justice fight that has happened here in Harris County. When folks out in Carverdale were being threatened with a landfill to be expanded more deeply into their communities, I filed the lawsuit that blocked that company from expanding that landfill into Carverdale. We're dealing with the cancer cluster in Fifth Ward, which is an ongoing fight. But I stood with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee and with Sylvester Turner to help get the EPA involved under the Biden administration to make sure that the cleanup plan was going to be thoughtful. Now, that process is still ongoing, but I want to be clear. The Trump administration has cut 60% of the EPA budget. Wow. And we all know which communities are going to bear the brunt of those cuts. So you need someone in Congress who's going to continue to fight on the environmental justice front. We've also seen folks going into communities and stealing homes out from under Black and brown folks. Now, why is that important? Because Black and brown folks, for generations, were cut out of the traditional forms of building wealth in this country. We were blocked from buying homes in certain neighborhoods. We were blocked from renting in certain neighborhoods. We were blocked from traditional forms of education. We were blocked from just about every single form of wealth generation in this country. And now that people are getting the homes and able to start establish wealth for them and future generations and their family, you're seeing scammers go out and steal those homes using deed fraud, using a number of schemes. So in the county attorney's office, I sued those folks. And we just got 40 folks in our communities restored rightful ownership of their homes. We're fighting the fights. But I've also been fighting back against the bullies who have power right now. When Kent Paxton and Greg Abbott came in our communities and tried to get more than 2,000 legally cast ballots thrown out, after all that our folks have done to fight and earn the right to vote in this country, when they came and tried to get those votes thrown out, I beat them in court and every single vote was counted. When they tried to abolish our elections department at the county, I fought them in court every single step of the way. You're going to hear a lot of people in this race talk about fighting. But what I'm bringing you is receipts that I have been doing the work since I first got in office in 2021, back before the fighting was cool. And that's what we need in this country right now. You know, when I go and I knock doors, I always have preconceived notions when I see people about the issues that are going to be important to them, right? So I was knocking doors a few weeks ago, and I knocked on the home of an 80-year-old woman. And when she opened the door, I was telling myself all these things that I thought that I knew about her, right? I said, okay, she's going to care about Social Security. She's going to care about Medicare. And when I opened the door and talked to her, what she said to me was, my question is, who's going to go up there and handle that fool Donald Trump? And I was surprised because you would think that, you know, across our communities, when folks are just not worried about the Trump stuff.
Not paying attention.
I think that the folks who are paying attention know that the greatest threat to Black folks in this country is institutional racism. And right now, the leader of that movement, the person perpetuating that at every single turn, saying that there are two N-words now that can't be said, is Donald Trump. And so I have the experience of going up there, shake things up, ready to throw punches and land them. I mean, you see that happening right now. People are crying out for leadership in the Democratic Party that's going to actually stand for something. If you won't pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act to ensure that we have the freedom to establish a true multiracial democracy, then it's time to put up a fight. Not get pushed around, not cave and let that just lie dormant, but no, work to actually get it passed so that we can restore voting rights for the many, many people who maybe can't get the right ID or whose precinct voting was cut and don't have now the opportunity to fairly cast their ballot. That's the exact type of fight that I've been doing as county attorney. That's what I'm going to take up there. But I also want to make the 18th Congressional District one of the best places to live and raise a family in all the state of Texas. We have communities right now in the 18th that don't have sidewalks, where if you drive through, you'll see kids walking to the corner store and they're having to walk alongside the street, which is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
We have community after community that has to deal with illegal dumping, with metal recyclers, with concrete batch plants, with all sorts of things that are not just blight issues, but true environmental hazards. I want to be the champion to go up to Washington, D.C., to do every single thing I can to get federal funds back here so that we can address these environmental justice issues, we can address these walkability issues, and make sure that our communities have the beautification that they deserve. I'm gonna tell you right now, if there were 9 or 10 concrete batch plants within a 2-mile radius of River Oaks, you wouldn't see concrete batch plants anymore. The state would figure out a way to fix the issue.
Yep.
But right now in the state of Texas, we have the governor's office, the state legislator, the attorney general's office, the lieutenant governor's office, the state Supreme Court is all run by one party. And let me tell you right now, they don't care about Fifth Ward, they don't care about Acres Home, they don't care about Cashmere Gardens, they don't care about none of these neighborhoods.
That's right.
And so it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we have a fighter going to Congress who's going to every day, unabashedly, unapologetically stand up for these neighborhoods and the folks who are in these neighborhoods. But I also want to make sure that we address income inequality in this country. You know, there used to be a time in this country where you could work 40 hours a week, you can get the house, 2 cars, send your kids off to do better than you did, have some money in case the healthcare issue arises, and still retire at a reasonable age. But for most people, that's just not the case anymore. People are working multiple jobs, still struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah.
They are not having money left over to do anything fun with.
Yeah.
They're unable to buy homes, and they're retiring at a later age. And the reason is because income inequality in this country has become absolutely unbearable. Since 1978, the average wages for the average employee have risen about 18% since 1978. Over that same time period, the average compensation for the average CEO of a mid to large size company has risen 1,300%. We have hundreds more billionaires in this country than we just had 20 years ago. And at the same time, many of those folks are paying little to no taxes. You got large corporations that time after time are able to find ways out of paying taxes. They're not paying their fair share. We are paying our fair share. But at the same time, our benefits are being cut. Social Security is under threat. We're not getting access to the same health care as everybody else. And I believe the issue is we're letting wealth be too hyper concentrated in the hands of too few people.
That's right.
So what do you do about that? One, the way that you fund the social safety net to make sure that everybody in our communities has the opportunity to get their fair shake at the American dream is you tax the wealthiest folks. Elizabeth Warren has talked a lot about a 3% surtax on folks with a net worth of over $1 billion. That could raise trillions of dollars for our federal budget that could be poured back into our communities. But there's also all these corporate loopholes that allow these companies to get out of paying their fair share of taxes. That could raise billions of more dollars. Look, the federal government, in my opinion, has a job to make sure that it looks after all of us, and that includes the least, the last, and the lost.
Yeah.
And the social safety net needs to be strong. Because let me tell you right now, without a strong safety net, I am not here before you today running for Congress. And I have many friends who didn't have the same opportunities that I had, who weren't able to make anything of their life. We need to have a strong safety net to be able to propel these folks forward, to do something impactful in their communities. I'm also very focused on healthcare. My brother was a cancer survivor. He had AML leukemia when we were growing up. And when we were at MD Anderson, he got a bone marrow transplant. That entire process was fully funded by my parents' military insurance called TRICARE. TRICARE is government issued insurance that basically, if you have an illness like that, funds everything. But we know that right now in the United States, for people who don't have military parents, there are many folks out there who have insurance that is focused on profit and not on patient outcomes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you end up with a situation where there may be a kid whose family is not fully insured and they're not able to get the treatment they need and they end up dying. If a single person in this country dies because they are uninsured or underinsured, we have a problem with our healthcare system. I believe in a universal healthcare system that is funded by taxpayer dollars, that focuses solely on patient outcomes. And there are many countries that do this right now, so we know that it can work to ensure that every single person in our community is entitled to healthcare. I believe that healthcare is a right. and not something that you do all you can to make money off of. Look, I want to strengthen the middle class in this country. I think the way that you build it out is by having a smart, a thoughtful, and a compassionate government to do that, and not just focus on the wealthy few, the powerful few. So with that, I will open up for questions. I'm extremely excited. You know, this campaign, there are actually 17 people
Still.
in the race. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, but
Okay.
but I'm proud to say that we came into this campaign with the support of former Congresswoman Erica Lee Carter, the daughter of the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Every single labor union is at 17 at this point that has endorsed in this race, has endorsed my campaign. We have outraised every single candidate. And most importantly, to the folks in the community, I got the longest track record of anybody in this campaign. I have been the county attorney for 4 years, and we have run it up in protection of our communities. We have fought hard. We have gotten wins. I have never been afraid to stand on the things that I believe in and stand for the communities that I believe in. And that's why there are so many receipts. And that's how you know that you can trust me as a member of Congress to have that same vigor, to report only to the people, and to do all I can to make sure that the 18th is one of the best places to live and raise a family in all Texas. So I'll open it up for any questions, but I'm Christian Menifee, asking for your support for the 18th, and I'm glad to see everybody.
Okay. Thank you, brother, for being here. I appreciate it.
Of course.
I always have questions, but I want to make sure that I don't have to start. You guys have any questions?
Why would you use
I'm sorry.
go first?
Unless you want to.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Miss Renetta, because she should go first. She's the one
Go
moving.
ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead, Will.
Okay. Who's gonna be strong enough to stand up to our this function of government slash elected officials, so whatever you can stand up to your peers in company?
Yeah, so the question is, who's going to be able to stand up to our current dysfunctional government? And if you look right now, what the base is crying out for, and when I say the base, I consider that different bases. I think it's the base of everybody who's not a MAGA Republican. So that includes folks who consider themselves Democrats. That includes Black folks who consider themselves not a part of any political party, right? But they stand for Blackness and advancing Blackness.
Yeah.
Folks want more of a spine and a fight from our members of Congress. You have seen people calling on Chuck Schumer, on Hakeem Jeffries to hold the line and to not let Donald Trump bully us into submission, right? To not let him cut HBCU funding, to not let him cut funding to Black farmers, right? To not try to target certain communities. The good news is I've been fighting here since before it was cool. When I ran for office in 2020, I was talking about being a fighter and standing up for the people I believe in. And there were many of folks in the Democratic Party who told me, hey, you got to calm down, right? You can't be talking to these folks like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit too aggressive. But now fighting polls better. So everybody's saying it, right? What you get out of me is somebody who you know that I'm going to be there prepared for the fight. You know I'm going to be ready to mix it up. You know I'm going to be surgical with my fighting so that I ensure that we win, because I don't just fight, I win. And you know that ultimately I'm going to be trying to advance our community's interests. And that means using every single tool that you got. Think back to like the early 1970s, the House Judiciary Committee was having a hearing over a break-in at the Watergate Hotel. And the Honorable gentle lady from the 18th Congressional District, Barbara Jordan, went to the mic and gave one of the most prolific speeches you'll ever hear. That speech snowballed into the resignation of President Richard Nixon, right? It's in our legacy. It's in our bloodline right here in the 18th Congressional District of Texas to stand up to corrupt presidents. Richard Nixon was very corrupt, but Donald Trump, Richard Nixon don't have nothing on Donald Trump, right? But it's about going up to DC and being thoughtful. I want to serve in the Oversight Committee because that's a committee that has the power to investigate just about anything with the presidential administration. They're not doing so right now because Republicans run Congress, but in 2026, the House will flip. So it provides more opportunities to investigate the administration. When they're spending money outside of ways that were congressionally appropriated, that's an opportunity to investigate. But it's also about coordinating the different lawsuits, right? To get everybody on the same page, because you want Donald Trump in the United States Supreme Court as often as possible. Right now, he's only been in office since, early January of this year, right? I know for many folks, it feels like it's been about 12, 13 years, but it's only been this year.
Yeah.
You have to think about both slowing him down and setting precedent for the future. Because if Donald Trump is successful with how he's trying to dismantle our democracy and turn it into an authoritarian state, if he's successful, you will see the next people like J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy. You'll see them get into office, and they'll further what he's doing. So it's important that we hold the line right here.
Yeah.
The fight for the soul of our democracy is happening right now in Washington, D.C., and it's going to determine what our country looks like for the next 50 years.
Thank you. Amen. Good answer. Ms. Renetta?
Good morning, thank you for coming out.
Sure.
My question, and it's always the same question as the Thursday morning breakfast, is I know your bid is to be successful. If you are not successful, what will you continuously do for the next, what, 2 years, 3 years? What is this? The term is 3 years for the position that you're running for. What's the term?
2 years.
2 years.
Mhm.
So if you are not successful, and again, I certainly wish that you are,
Thank you.
what would you do? What will you continuously do to make sure that the issue that you just spoke about are completed or carried through? The second part is, what do you suggest that we do in the audience? What do I do when I leave here today? What's your call to action for me, a senior citizen, to be able to help you to do what it is that you're doing?
Yeah, so the first question is, what am I gonna do to advance these issues if I'm unsuccessful?
Correct.
Well, if you look at my track record, at the past 4 years as county attorney, I've been doing every single thing I can, even on issues that traditionally were not within the wheelhouse of the county attorney. The county attorney's office used to be a sleepy office that just represents the county in lawsuits. When I got there in 2021, we built it out into this fighting force that goes out and does work in Fifth Ward and Cashmere Gardens, that does work in Carverdale, that does work in Sunnyside, right? Across the county, standing up for the specific things that I think are important. So I'll continue to advocate, right?
And the next question is, will you still be in that position?
No,
You won't
no,
be.
no. I've resigned from the county attorney's office. And at some point this year, I suspect, Commissioner's Court will replace me.
Right.
And I made clear, look, I'm not one of those politicians who believes that I need to be serving in public office for 50 years. That's just not me. I have served as a county attorney for the past 4 years. I think we have made it into a fighting force, a place that stands up to the powerful on behalf of those who have been made to feel like they're powerless. And I'm ready to pass it off to the next person. I believe strongly that when you make a decision like I made to step out and run for a different office, it's time to pass it on to the next person.
Right.
The good news is we have built that office up into a well-oiled machine. I mean, everything is cranking on all cylinders, and I know that there are dozens of attorneys in the Houston area that you can put in charge of this office, and it will be just fine. It will continue to fight back just as hard against Donald Trump. It will continue to advocate in our communities. So I look forward to whoever's going to replace me in the county attorney's office to being a resource for them. And if I'm not in Congress, then I'll be here in Houston, and I'll be happy to help them out where I can. If I am in Congress, I'm going to Washington, D.C., not to Mars. So I will just be a phone call away to be an advocate alongside them. As for what can people in the community do to advance the campaign, look, get the word out, get the message out. There are a lot of people in this race, and that means that there's an incredibly long ballot. And that means, typically people are confused. They don't know what's what, they don't know who's who. What I would say is, take the record of everybody in this campaign, right? Line it up, and then you make your decision based off of that. I'm not even saying you got to pick me. Every single person in this campaign has a record of some sort. Either they served in elected office, either they've been running for office, either they have been someone who has called themselves a community leader. Look at their record, and if their record is the type of time that you think that a member of Congress should be on, then support them. If that person isn't me, I'm perfectly fine with that. But I am more than confident that if you don't believe our record is the best, it is among the best. I've been doing the work. I know I look young, but I've been at this for a number of years, and I haven't just been hanging out. I have, when I took this job as county attorney, I could have just, kind of clocked it in, gone to the little luncheons and the galas and just let it be that, right? Because nobody expected anything of me when I came in the county attorney, because nobody knew what that office was. I was proactive. I worked full days, 4 weeks. In identifying the issues in my community and taking the resources of my office to those communities. So what I would say is educate people on candidates, let them make their decision, and I'm confident that if enough people see my record, they're going to want to support me in this campaign.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Brother Christian, as well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it sincerely. There's a reason why Democrats don't fight. There's a reason why they have done things like most recently the voting with Republicans to make Christian Kirkdale some crap.
Charlie Kirk, yeah.
That Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry. That is not Christian Kirk. Charlie Kirk. That is extremely disrespectful to Black people on multiple levels.
Sure.
There are a lot of people like myself who believe that these two entities, Republican and Democrat, are two wings of the same bird.
Mm-hmm.
Because they work together on so many things that would have a Democrat wondering, what the hell. So everything you said sounds great, of course. But how are you going to Brother Will's question, how are you going to get a party that seems to be not only feckless and toothless, but seems to be in lockstep with the Republican Party? How are you going to get this party to do what needs to be done when they seem to be controlled by people who just don't care about it?
Yeah, so first of all, I screened with the Houston Chronicle yesterday, and I think I
did what? I'm sorry.
Well, me and a few of the other candidates screened with the Houston
Screen.
Chronicle
Okay. Yeah.
yesterday for the endorsement interview, and I think I was the only candidate to make clear I would have voted against the Charlie Kirk resolution.
Yeah.
And the reason I would have voted against it is, look, you can be perfectly fine with someone's debates, with their ability to go into colleges and have open conversations with people about policy. But the things that Charlie Kirk said about black,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
if he had said those same things about some other subgroup,
Yeah.
whether it be Christians or people of Jewish faith or
Yeah.
whatever it is, there would not have been a resolution honoring him.
Right.
And so I think it's important that people hold the line when it comes to protecting anti-blackness.
Right.
And I want to be abundantly clear, Charlie Kirk was anti-black.
Sure.
Full stop.
100%.
I would have voted against that. I think so the question is, how do we get the Democratic Party, which many people view in times to be in lockstep
Yeah.
with other folks in the establishment, not really looking out
That's right.
for black people?
That's right.
How do you get them to come on board our agenda? Two ways. One is being unapologetically black.
Mhm.
I've made clear everywhere I've gone across this district. There are people who are Democrats who are also, a black man. I am a black man who just so happens to also be a Democrat. At the end of the day, I'm running to represent a district where the people who have served from this district have been a national voice for black folks.
Mhm.
You can talk to anybody across this country just about it, and they know who Sheila Jackson Lee was.
Right.
When she spoke for the 18th, she advocated for our communities, but she also was a voice for Black America.
That's right.
And I will be intentional about carrying that torch forward. One of the ways of doing that is pushing forward on reparations.
Mhm.
Look, I'm a firm believer that Black folks built this country.
Yep.
And if you look at the other major subgroups in this country who were subjugated over an elongated period of time, they were all provided some form of reparations.
Sure.
But Black folks were not. I am going to continue to be an advocate on that issue, and that's not just going to be like some throwaway issue for me. I'm going to really focus in on trying to advance forward on that. So I think it's about being unapologetically Black. Look, I think people get into these political circles and they're just happy to be at the luncheon.
No
they're
doubt.
happy to have
No
their
doubt.
name called.
Yeah.
I don't care about none of that.
Yeah.
I'm here to advocate for my communities and to be strongly in support of Black communities, brown communities, immigrant communities, standing up for the folks who are at the core of the 18th Congressional District.
Yeah.
The second thing is relationships.
Okay.
A lot of people had a lot to say when I first came out the gate, and there were 40 current or former elected officials that had endorsed me, a number of community leaders, faith leaders, right? And people were like, oh my gosh, how'd you get all this support so quickly? Two ways. One was doing the work,
Mhm.
and you'll find that when you just go out and do the work and you call somebody and ask for their support, they'll say, oh no, I know who you are. I know what you do. I know what you stand for.
Okay.
I'm gonna rock with you. But also building relationships, right? Not getting into any position, whether it be Congress or whatever else, and making it the me show.
Okay.
Trying to go viral on social media, trying to build my own profile. Again, I don't care about none of that. It's about going in and building the relationships necessary to be able to lead folks
Mhm.
on the issues that you care about. And look, my entire time in public office, I have been a leader.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't come into the county attorney's office and do what many other folks would have done, which is just kept quiet, sat in the back room, gone to the little galas and stuff, and just let that be that.
Mhm.
I came out guns a-blazing in the
Okay.
county attorney's office to stand up for Black and brown communities. And you can go check many of the things that I've done. I brought other people with me,
Right.
Who maybe wouldn't have even seen things that way and who wouldn't have been focused on those issues. But I said, hey, we got this press conference thing. Pull up with me. Like let's work on this together, bringing other people into the fold. When I went out to Carverdale
Mhm.
and we beat Waste Management to stop that landfill from expanding, you know who I did that with?
Mm.
Tom Ramsey, who is a Republican at the
Okay.
Harris County Commissioner's Court, right?
Okay.
Tell me how many times you have met Republicans who care about environmental justice, right?
Yeah.
But it's about being a leader and bringing people along with you to your issue,
Yeah.
right? Instead of becoming a part of the Democratic insider establishment, whatever,
Yep.
and then letting them pull you around to the issues that are important to them. That's not going to be how I approach the issues. It's going to be me pulling people along instead of the other way around.
Okay. Thank you for that. Next question. When I was doing my due diligence,
Yeah.
on your website and reading everything that was there, or at least most of it, of course, a lot of the issues that you have on your site everyone has on their websites as well.
Yeah.
Because the issues are pretty common.
Sure.
Everything you said as relates to what you want to do, it all sounds great. Have you seen concrete examples of the things that you want to do already having been done at some point in this country, by which you can replicate those models moving forward? Or are you planning to start from scratch to create something which kind of puts you behind the curve? Because again, every 2 years you got to be ready to run.
Yeah, I mean, look, most of the ideas that you're going to hear pushed by candidates are things that have already been filed. So, for example, I'm very big on Black maternal health.
Okay.
When my wife was pregnant with our second, she had complications, and it was an experience that I don't wish on anyone.
Yeah.
And we see that in hospital after hospital, Black women are having worse outcomes in childbirth and prenatal care than you're seeing for their white counterparts. Lauren Underwood and a couple other folks filed the Omnibus Act, which would increase funding at hospitals for maternal staff who are focused on this stuff, which would increase like mental health treatments to ensure that people in the right headspace when they go in and they're having to give birth, which would increase funding for things like doulas, right?
Like what?
Doulas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And so that is something that I've already seen, right, that I support, that I want to move forward.
Okay.
Universal healthcare is something that exists in a number of countries. If you look at like Denmark, for example,
Yeah.
right, they have a government-funded healthcare system where you can go and get seen, regardless of what's happening to you. You're going to be able to go and get seen, and it's not going to drive you into medical debt that sets you back 20, 30 years, all because you had some sort of condition or disease. So that's another example of something that we've already seen in this country.
Okay.
The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Yeah, we saw it before. We saw it in 1965, right, when the original Voting Rights Act was passed. It needs to be restored, and it hasn't been for multiple decades. So that is just building upon something that's happened in the past. But the short answer is, no, most of the things that I support, like, it's not something that Christian Ministry came up with.
Okay.
It's something that there's already a bit of a coalition that exists. It's just about working together to broaden the coalition so that we can advance it. And look, right now, politics are toxic in DC.
Yeah.
They're very toxic. You have a party in the Republican Party that is under the singular control of one man, right? The only thing that matters in that party for political success, it's only one thing, is how much have you kissed Donald Trump's butt?
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. And people have been appointed to federal benches based on doing that.
That's right.
People have been added to the presidential cabinet based on doing that.
Yeah.
People have gotten elected to the Senate based on doing that, like the Congress based on doing that. So that makes it difficult, because how do you negotiate with someone who isn't even putting their own community first, right?
Right.
And I'm not even talking about the Democrats in their community. They're not even putting the Republicans in their community first. If you look at the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, early versions of it, we're just going to cut funding for public news stations in rural areas.
Yeah.
And many of those rural areas are in Republican districts, right?
Yeah.
And still, the members of Congress from those districts, they didn't want to get crossways with Trump. So they would just, quietly be like, all right. And then they would go do a town hall and get yelled at for 2 hours from their own constituents because of what they're doing.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be part of the challenge. You're not going to have any normal semblance of politics in this country until Donald Trump is out of office. He has got to go.
Yeah.
Because right now, the number of folks in the Republican Party who are willing to work with you on anything is so small because they know that they have to hold the line with Donald Trump and the MAGA wing of the party.
Yeah.
So my goal is to restore a semblance of normalcy to Washington, D.C. Being able to fight, but also being able to build the relationships and to be surgical in my approach, right? Not ham-handed, not like, doing it for TikTok views, but fighting when it's time to fight, collaborating when it's time to collaborate, and being effective. At the end of the day, you can do all this other stuff. You can be on TV, you can be on social media. If you're not bringing money back to the district, people are going to have a real problem with you.
That's right.
Right? Because that is your primary gig.
That is right.
Is, hey, you need to make our community better through the federal government. And so that's what I plan to do.
Okay. All right. Before I go to my next question, you guys good? No question?
I have one question.
Okay.
What is your input on bill that you Medicare bill?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, the question is, how do I feel about the so-called Big Beautiful Bill?
Yeah.
Horrific. Cuts Medicaid, cuts SNAP benefits, cuts so many social programs that are important for folks in this country. Of course, we know that passed by just a single vote, and our seat here was vacant. And if somebody had been in that seat, they could have extended, it could have grown the leverage on the Democratic side, could have potentially killed it, could have weakened it, whatever. It's a horrible bill. I don't even think, Republicans in many of these rural districts support it, but they feel like they have to because they're serving fealty to Donald Trump. But I want to be clear, it is the greatest transfer of wealth we have seen in modern history, right? It is funding tax breaks for the wealthy and the corporation class on the backs of underserved communities. Full stop. So when I talk about the disparate, the wealth inequality in this country and the income inequality in this country, all this is going to do is deepen it and widen it to a tune that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. So the impacts of that are going to be borne on the backs of people who live in the very neighborhoods that are in the 18th.
Well, my question is, because we do have the 17 individuals that are vying for this position, the individual that actually wins, what type of coalition or what type of reaching out to the people that supported all those other candidates or either those candidates, how do we bring those people?
Good question. Good question. Coalition.
A coalition, a consensus, like, let's all get behind this particular candidate and let's all sort of keep working together. And it'll be at least a 1-year position, right? Unless.
Yeah, it'll be at least 1 year. Yeah.
1 year. So how do you look to reaching out after you win to be able to bring those people into the fold, to be able to say, this is the one issue or this is the main issue that we're going to work on for this 1 year.
Yes, ma'am.
For our zip codes and our streets and our communities, we're gonna take this energy and take that 1 year. And I think it's important right now where the redistricting might be overturned. Is that somewhat of a possibility? Or
Yeah, it is. It is.
So
The hearing's going on right now. Yeah.
How do we look at the coalition? How do we bring those 17 diverse groups back to supporting one candidate? Because like we just need to be working together. The zip codes need to be focused on one issue, 2 issues that we can actually make
Yes, ma'am.
inroads on.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what I'm looking for. Like I said, if you win, when you win, how do you look at the quote, bringing people back together?
Yeah.
And if they're cutting like Medicaid or they're cutting different things, how do we put people in place to make money or to have those businesses? Okay, well, the government is doing that on that end, but in my zip code and my county and my community, what do we do in that regard? Was that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
how do you build a coalition with people after the race is over?
Yeah. Who running against you?
Yeah. With
They're
people,
mad at you for the-
Well, people who support other candidates. I think it's all about humility, right? You know, I'm sure people have many things to say about every candidate that's raised.
Yeah.
But one thing I pride myself on is my service has never been about Christian Menifee. And I don't take any of this personal. After this is over, I don't care who you supported. I don't care if you supported the biggest enemy, or, of my campaign, whatever. Once this is over, I represent you,
Right.
and I want
That's
to talk
right.
to you.
Yeah.
And I will reach out. And if you ever, if you call me back, people will tell you, if you got my cell phone number, you call me, I answer. I don't care if you endorse. I just had somebody the other day who has endorsed one of my opponents call me and say that they have a family member who has been wrongfully charged with a crime and they need a defense lawyer. And I connected them with a lawyer. Right? Look, the campaign is a campaign, but this real in the weeds service, helping communities, helping neighborhoods, to me, that is much bigger than any one campaign. So once this is over, I'm reaching out to everybody. In fact, a wise politician once told me that once a race is over, the first call you want to make is to the people who went the hardest at you, because you know that they're gonna work.
Right.
You're not seeing them work.
It makes
before,
sense.
Right? Right.
Yes, sir.
He said the last people you call is the ones who want to stay out of it, but the people who was going hard for somebody else, that's who you want to call, because you know that when they with you, they with you. So I'll be reaching out. And again, this is what I can guarantee people: the moment that this race is over, I'm like a cornerback in the Super Bowl. My memory's gone.
Okay.
Right? I'm thinking about the next play.
That's
we
right.
have moved on.
That's right.
I won. If you were with me, thank you. If you weren't with me, let's work together now. And that's my commitment to folks. And then the other piece of it is, how do we position folks in our community to make money based on like the new government programs? Look, I think we need to beat back the Big Beautiful Bill. But if it's in place and it's being implemented, we need to have folks who are studying it to make sure that our communities are the ones who are benefiting.
That's right.
And it's not folks from them other places coming into our communities making money off of government programs that are designed to service us. So kill it if you can kill it, but if you can't kill it, then we need to figure out how we maximize both to, ensure that we're helping Black businesses, but also to ensure that we're getting resources and programs into our communities.
Right. Right. So, in the interest of you having a hard stop.
Yes,
at
sir.
9:30, we got 8 minutes. I'm asking you to answer these next questions relatively rapidly.
Quick. All right.
And if you guys have questions, ask the question quickly because he got to go in 8 minutes. We got an online question from the absolutely awesome and wonderful Miss Cecilia Fontenot,
Yeah.
who has one of your signs in her yard. Her question is, what's your idea about the people being found in the bayous? This is a sign to me that they are coming for us, Black people, in a different way than lynching.
Yeah, so the question is, what do I think about the folks who've been found in the bayous? Look, it's incredibly troubling. We have seen multiple folks whose bodies have been discovered in a bayou, including a young student.
Yeah.
And I just was at her memorial a week and a half ago. It's incredibly troubling. I want to see what the evidence is showing us. And I think that's exactly what you've heard from the community. Just yesterday, some folks out in the community did a press conference, and what they said is, we want more information.
Right.
We want to know the details about the people who passed, whether there's any alignment or similarities between them so that we can reach conclusions about what was the cause and whether there's anything that's bigger than just one person that's going on. So I would say right now, I feel like I want more information. And I think it's incumbent upon government to be transparent and to get that information out so that we can reach, a reasonable conclusion off of it. But I will say, I mean, it's scary, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
The one young lady who was found in the bayou, that's not far off from where I live.
Oh.
And I got 2 little kids.
Yeah.
So I know that it is horrific to people in our communities. I know that time and time again in Black communities, we have seen people targeted.
Yes, sir.
So I think it's imperative that we get the information so we can reach conclusions.
Yes. Amen. What you're going to have to deal with is a mindset from Trump on down. And that mindset is not, hasn't been, and probably never will be pro us. That includes poor grassroots people, no matter what they look like.
Yeah.
We were trying to make people aware of Project 2025 starting February of last year. Moving forward, we had a number of online and offline events. Our Juneteenth event was about Project 2025. But of course, not enough people thought it was real. They didn't believe it. They thought it was, they can't do all that, but they're ahead of schedule right now in October of 2025. So what are you going to do to not only fight that mindset, because it is a philosophy that these people have, but more importantly, how are you going to help grassroots people here not only understand that mindset at this level, but that mindset is also down here. So we got to mobilize and organize down here,
right,
so that we can be more beneficial and helpful to you up here.
Yeah, so 2 things. One, I think one of my talents is being able to explain complex situations, facts, in just a layman's way. And it's because that's just how I grew up talking, right? So it's about having an effective message. Somebody who's going to distill down all the nonsense that's in Project 2025 and just lay it plain for people on the ground. I think that means being willing to engage in that conversation, prioritizing messaging, like that is a piece of what I will be doing. If you look at somebody's doing it fantastically right now, Jasmine Crockett, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt.
I mean, Jasmine Crockett can take the most complex of issues and then she can sit
break it down.
That's right.
Yes,
It's like I'm sitting there with a cousin or something.
Yep.
So that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is I think a member of Congress, it should also be an organizer. That is part of your job, is to be a convener. Is when the member of Congress says, hey, we need to have a meeting at this day on this thing, right? People are going to come to that. They will show up because they look to a member of Congress as a leader. And that is true in no place more than it is in the 18th Congressional District, given the legacy of true leaders that we've had who serve this seat. So I plan to be an organizer, someone who convenes people, who brings folks together to talk about the important issues so that they can disseminate that back into their communities.
Okay, a big part of, thank you for,
sure.
for answering that precisely. A big part of that mindset is making it more and more difficult for people to vote. Again, Brother Will and I were talking on the drive up here, especially with our people, we like to say that voting don't matter. But if it didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to keep you from doing it every single election. This whole redistricting thing that has happened is a part of that Project 2025. Attack the vote, attack poor people's vote on purpose. It's a mindset, it's a philosophy. How are you going to navigate these redistricting waters? Because the demographic you are currently running to represent is not going to be the same in a year. So you're gonna have to kind of like rerun with a new group. How are you going to navigate those waters?
Be out in the streets, man. The way that you win people over The same way that I win people over in the current 18th, which
Yeah.
is inclusive of Acres Home,
Yeah.
it'll be the same way I win the new 18th over, which is inclusive of neighborhoods like Sunnyside.
Yeah.
And that's just showing my track record of standing up for communities, including those very communities and the work that I've done in those very communities, being in the streets, so out there amongst people, meeting them, talking to them about my record, talking to them about what's important to them. But I'm a firm believer that if you just stand for the right things,
Yeah.
you stand with integrity, you put your head down and do the work, that people will see that will shine through. The retail politics of it matters. You got to shake some hands and kiss some babies. But I'm a firm believer that you can send me to a corner store in Acres Home, or you can send me to a corner store in Herman Clark.
Yeah.
And if I talk to them about what I stand for and what I've done, they're going to want to rock with me.
Okay.
I'm confident that.
Okay, cool. Two more questions and you got a boogie. We've been dealing with an issue since last April. We have proven evidence of HISD covering up a sexual predator at a high school in District D. The evidence is there. The everything is laid out. Is an obvious cover up. Were you to win, if you win, when you win, what are you willing to do to help us bring to light not only HISD's failures with bringing this sexual predator to light, but what are you willing to do to help us continue to do what we can as a community to protect our children?
Yeah, so I get the Congress send me the information and I'll review it. And if I think that there's there, I will personally help bring it to light.
Okay.
Look, we have kids across our communities that are being targeted. The number of folks we have seen in this space who prey on children is reprehensible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So more often than not, they're arrested, they're publicly shamed, they're charged. And
More often than not.
More often than not, but that ain't 100%.
It is not.
And,
Not what HISD is.
and that's a problem.
Yeah.
It should be at 100%.
Yes, sir.
So the commitment you have from me is that I will always prioritize our kids and our public education system and make sure that they're not, around predators who are targeting them. And if they are, that information is given to law enforcement as soon as possible.
That's right.
And the good news is, look, I have relationships. This is an important thing. A member of Congress is a convener, right?
Is
I
a
can't
convener?
a convener.
Okay.
Right. I can't come in and prosecute somebody, right? I can't come in and build a sidewalk for you.
Right.
But it's about having a relationship with
That's
people
right.
who can. That's
Yeah.
what Sheila was so like talented at. Was she would get anybody on the phone. And I know this because there were many nights she would call me at 11 p.m. And tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by the district attorney in this race, by multiple folks at the county, at the city,
Okay.
state level, federal level. So when you come to me with a problem,
Yeah.
it's not going to die with me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to be on the phones. And because I've worked in local government, I know where the levers are
Okay.
to be able to help get stuff done.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody else in this race can say that they have the number of sustained relationships across government that I have.
Yeah.
That's why my campaign has been supported by members of Congress, by members of the state legislature, by people who work at the county, and by people who work at the city. Because I have been working across government levels, because my job as the county attorney was just, I'm about to get it done.
Yeah.
It don't matter if I need the state, okay, we're gonna find somebody at the state to call, right? And I'll be on that same type of energy in Congress.
Yeah, I'm going to personally hold you to that.
Sure,
Because this is our 7th event like this with people who run for the 18th. It's our 7th in the series. And everyone has given good lip service to that one question. But when I reach back out with information, because I want you to know, I'm not lying, evidence is there. No one has returned my calls or responded to the emails. So I'm going to hold you to that because this is important. It's a big deal for a lot of reasons. And of course, being a father of 2, correct?
Yeah.
If it were your child, your motivation would be completely different.
Yeah.
And we got to get our people to realize that every Black child, we need to look at as our children so we can protect all of them as much as possible.
Yeah.
And we're a minute behind. You got to go. Last question. How can people support you and why should they vote for you?
Go to ChristianMenifee.com. You will see my record. You will see what I stand for. You will see how I'm going to take the 18th Congressional District forward. There is nobody in this race who has a more clear set of receipts of being an effective public servant, of being an effective fighter, of being an effective messenger, and who, at all times is going to stand for the business of the people of the 18th. I'm not about to sell out to River Oaks. I'm not about to sell out to Washington, D.C. I'm going to be about our neighborhoods every single day in Congress. And that's why I'm asking for your support. Go to ChristianMenifee.com to learn more, and I hope to have your vote.
All right. Thank you very much, brother, for coming. I appreciate it. And we'll give you a quick right-hand function. We sing the church. I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all very much for hosting me. I appreciate it.
And in closing, I just want to remind people that we, every week we have a digital magazine that we started called Growth for Care Digital. Is a magazine that we put out every Tuesday because everything that Brother Christian represents, we want to build upon that. We want to be a part of his network, and we want to make sure that people know about
what's happening in the community and how we can support the community. This is our 32nd issue. For 32 weeks, we've been putting out this digital magazine. And we're going to continue to do that to make sure that the community is knowledgeable, aware, intact, and organized. So if you are interested in learning more about what we do, about Brother Christian, about the organization, then you can go to growforcare.org, click on Grow for Care Digital at the top, and subscribe, and then we can go from there. So as always, thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you again, Brother Christian. Thank you for those who showed up. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys on the other side next Thursday. Hopefully, prayerfully. Take care. God bless you.